In this video, I want to go ahead and create a script that can detect on whether I'm hitting this cube from its bottom or not. And think back to something like an old Super Mario game where if you hit it from the bottom, it would have some sort of little animation where it bounces, maybe a shroom or a flower, something that pops out. And then it would just go ahead and like deactivate itself. But I'm only going to want this behavior if I'm hitting it from the bottom, not from the sides or the top. So let's go ahead. We'll take a look at the game object itself. Bonus points to the first person down in the comments. I can get the reference to the name. Anyway, I've got it set at 68 on the X, 3 on the Y. It's 1 unit in all the sizes or dimensions. I've got a sprite render, which the only thing I've changed is I made it red. We have a box collider, which is just a standard box collider. It just fits around it. So let's go ahead. We'll make a script and start figuring this out. I'll just call this script Shroomer. It doesn't really matter what it's called. And we'll open this up in Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all the stuff I don't need. And there's only one method here we actually have to pay attention to. That is on collision enter 2D. Now this works for 3D as well. It's just the game I happen to be playing around with is a 2D game. So we're going to go ahead and look at the 2D example. But remember, if you just take off the 2D stuff, this will work in 3D as well. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at all of the contacts that are going to happen with this collider. And those are contact point 2D. And I'm just going to call this hit pos for the position that we got hit at. And we're going to be taking a look at this collision 2D here. So we're going to grab that other. So essentially all of the collisions that happened when this message was sent. Now let's go ahead and look at the Unity documentation for contact point 2D. In our space game, we went ahead and used the point method where we could go ahead and detect the actual point where our collider was hit. Then we went ahead and instantiated a little flame particle on both the asteroid and I believe our ship as well. But this time around, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the normal, at least the normal first. We can look at the other one after. And let's see how this works. And let's fix the typo here. It's supposed to be for each. And of course, we also need the contacts. There we go. We're grabbing the contact point 2D in the contacts part of the collision. And to start off with, let's go ahead and just debug out the actual spot. So hit dot pos, whoops, hit pos dot normal. And this will give us our X and a Y, although I really am only concerned with the Y. But let's take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and start it up. I've got my console opened up over here. I'll hit it from the bottom. And, you know, it really helps if I actually attach the scripts. All right, we'll go ahead, we'll drop it on. And now let's go ahead and watch the console. I'll hit it from the bottom. And we're getting a 0, 0 on X and a 1 on the Y. Let me go over to the side here. I'm still going to hit it from the bottom, but from a different spot on the bottom. And I missed and hit the side exactly. And if we take note here, we got a 1 on the X and a 0 on the Y. Move over a bit and clear. There we go. So I've got a 0.3 on the X and still a 1 on the Y. Try over here. And now we got a 0 on the X and again, a 1 on that Y. Let's clear it and let's try to hit it once from the top. Okay, well, we got a 0 on the Y, or sorry, 0 on the X and a -1 on the Y. So the takeaway here is that we're getting a -1 on the top of it and a positive 1 on the bottom. Let me clear this. I'll move a bit over here and jump. And I can't jump because I don't have this set as something I can jump on the layer. Let's go ahead. We'll just quickly fix this here. I'll make it grounded. Now our character can interact with it better. And again, 0 on the X, -1. Let's try to move as close as I can without falling off. And there we go. It looks like I hit just the corner and slid off of it. But again, take note, negative number up here, positive number down here. If you hit it flat on the bottom or the top, it's always a 1. So we can work with that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that debug there. And I'm just going to say if hit pos dot normal dot Y is less than 0, meaning it was a negative. And we got the negatives from hitting the top. What I'm just going to go ahead and say, we'll just put a string in here. And we'll do an else and an else if. So if it's greater than 0, that means we hit from the bottom. And this should be an else if. And then lastly, else. And that means we're going to hit the middle. I guess we actually don't need this up here anymore, because we're throwing it along with our debug statements down here. Now, I'm only interested in the Y, to be honest. So I'm only going to have it debug out the Y. So I'm going to save that off, come back in, let it recompile. Let's try it again. So if I hit from the bottom, it tells me I got to hit from the bottom. Great. Hit from the top. And I have to go ahead and set the layer because I did not set it in the edit mode. And I'll just keep getting that. Let's try to deliberately hit from the side now. There we go. It's still registering as a hit from the top because I nipped the side. Now, if you only want to specifically have the top and the bottom, remember, it's -1 or just +1. Having trouble hitting the side now. Stop it. There we go. Hit the middle. Got one. All right, we'll stop that off. Let's go ahead. We'll jump back into the code. And there's one other way we could go ahead, and that is taking a look at the actual position. We'll look at the documentation again. So the point, and this works similar to the normal. It's a little more precise, but I don't really need precision as far as the decimal point. I just need to know if it's, 1 or -1. But let's take a look at this in case you want to have maybe the bottom corner of your collider. If it contacts with that, then we'll take a look here. Maybe you just want to know if something contacted maybe this particular part of your collider. Well, you can do that with normal. It's probably easier to do it with point. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So again, I'll start off debug.log, hit pos.point. All right, with that saved off, we'll go ahead, we'll jump back in and hit from the bottom. And take note of the position. This is relative to the position that you have set up for your sprite. So I hit in the middle, 68, and I was at -2.5. So I was under the 3. Now that 3 is relative to the pivot point I have set up here in the center. And remember, this is 1 unit tall and 1 unit wide. So by hitting the bottom, that's half a unit off of the pivot point, which comes out to 2.5. And if I go from the top, there we go. And again, really should just do that in edit mode. And because I'm off to the side a bit now, we're actually getting a difference on the X. But like I said, I don't care about the X in this instance. So if you have a static size for your cube, you can also use it this way here as well. So for the bottom, I'm just going to do the bottom this time. You should be able to do the rest if you go ahead and take a look at the lines below like we did for the normal. I'm going to say if transform.position.y, and I actually mean the other way first, hit pos.point.y, subtract our transform position. So we're looking at the bottom here minus the center. And if that is less than 0, then we can go ahead and say it was the bottom. And I will change this to point. Let's go ahead. We'll try this one out. And we hit it. Hit from the bottom. There we go. And from the top, doesn't do anything. And I didn't do it again. So it doesn't matter where else we hit it from. It only registers from the bottom. Now, this will trigger on any negative number. So anything, if we hit from the side here, which I'm trying to do, it will register that. There we go. So not exactly right from the bottom, but I clip the corner, which will register that as well. But anyway, there's 2 ways to do it. Go ahead, pick the one that works best for you. There might even be a built-in Unity function that I just do not know of that actually does this for you. Lets you know if you hit from the top or the bottom. If there is one and you know about it, go ahead and let us know down below in the comments. I'm sure more people than me would love to know about that. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.